Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving into a fascinating and I'd say certainly provocative perspective on American energy policy and climate change. We have an article here from Chris Wright, the United States Secretary of Energy, sharing his insights. So our mission for you today is really to pull out the core arguments, maybe some surprising points from his viewpoint, especially how he frames climate change. He talks about it not as an existential crisis, which we hear a lot, but actually the byproduct of progress. That's a pretty fundamental shift in how you frame it, right?
It really is. And what's compelling, I think, is how the article ties energy policy, like directly to global human well-being and economic prosperity, too. It sets up this very clear choice for the future. You're going to hear this argument for an energy policy of addition, growth rather than subtraction.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. The article starts by saying that energy, when combined with human liberty, has just dramatically transformed things for people. Wright points to global life expectancy doubling and extreme poverty plummeting from like 90% way back when to under 10% globally now. He doesn't just state that as a fact, though. He frames it as the foundation, the success story that future energy policy needs to build on. It really flips the usual narrative.
Right. And connecting that to the bigger picture, his argument is basically that the world needs more energy, unequivocally. Specifically, he says, more affordable, reliable, and secure American energy. To keep that human progress going, it's presented almost like a direct cause and effect.
And what's particularly striking is how he then contrasts that historical success, very starkly, with what he calls the previous administration's regulatory assault aimed at eliminating hydrocarbons. He claims this approach just made American energy uncertain, more expensive, and less reliable. And he lays out some pretty stark figures, too. He says by the time President Trump took office for his second term, 1 in 5 American households were struggling with energy bills, and half the electric grid faced blackout risks.
Mm-hmm. So given that strong critique, the obvious question is, well, what does Wright say happened? What were the consequences of that approach? The article argues targeting those reliable fuels led straight to higher energy prices, inflation, and weaker grid resilience. But what's really noteworthy, maybe even surprising, is that according to Wright, these efforts didn't significantly cut hydrocarbon use. He states it still made up 82% of American primary energy consumption in 2024. And remember, primary energy is everything, not just electricity. That 82% figure, he says, is almost the same as 2019. So the implication is those regulations didn't even achieve their sort of stated goal.
Exactly. That's a key point he makes. And the article uses strong language here. It cites examples from Europe and the previous U.S. administration, where, in his words, climate zealotry led to, quote, crushingly high energy prices, deindustrialization, and diminished life opportunities. A really vivid example he gives is Britain, apparently focusing